Oh, man. Good morning. Good morning. We've got Ole Miss at LSU this weekend. Brought to you by an ice-cold Budweiser and some amazing wings from Martin's in Livingston. Ole Miss at LSU. 6:30 kick. Death Valley Tiger Stadium. Ole Miss hasn't won down there since 2008. They're laying 3. We'll see what all everybody decides to do on that line throughout the week. But Ole Miss is laying 3 at LSU. I expect an absolute dogfight and war. Both teams flawed. Both teams have a lot of talent. And but it's a weird year, man. There's just not many teams, if any, that are buttoned up. I know Texas and Ohio State are still undefeated, but, hang on. I think this thing's going to get real weird and real wacky as we go down the stretch. I don't know how many 2-loss teams we're going to have competing for a college football playoff, but I think it's going to be a boatload. Better get your Q top 25s. I mean, that's what the committee likes. There is no eye test. We are the Out of Bounds Show, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Hey, if you need to cater something for your school, elementary school, middle school, high school, your baseball team, softball team, Subway at Grants Ferry will cater for, teachers, elementary, junior high, softball, soccer, baseball. Subway at Grants Ferry. Get you some sandwiches. Can't beat it. Catering, Subway at Grants Ferry. We welcome in Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike D joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance guest line. Mike D, you ready for this this big matchup between Ole Miss and LSU Saturday night in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I better be.
Well, all right. You look at Ole Miss LSU's coming off a week off. Their defense isn't where it needs to be, but Nussmeier can throw it, and he is really good as a passer. And Ole Miss really hasn't faced a quarterback that can throw the football yet this year. The Kentucky guy's okay. The South Carolina guy, Lenore Sellers, is not even close to there yet. So handicap Ole Miss's offense against LSU's offense against Ole Miss's defense, Mike D.
Yeah, it's totally different from a year ago. Jaden Daniels just made everything so dynamic because of his playmaking skills as a passer and also as a runner. It's hard to duplicate having a guy that could throw the ball that well, and yet he rushed for over 1,100 yards. So you knew it was going to look differently this year. Garrett's not going to run around like that at all. And you had 2 first-round pick receivers in Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr. I thought early on they struggled running the football, really struggled. But Caden Durham has given them an opportunity, the young freshman, to run the football better, and he's also an excellent receiver coming out of the backfield. So I know Brian at first sort of didn't want to hand him the baton as being the guy, but it became obvious that he's the guy. And they spread the ball around a lot with Garrett. Their offensive line is very good in pass protection, and Garrett is pinpoint, man. He really does a nice job, short, intermediate stuff. They are not the long ball throwing team that we saw a year ago. Some of that has to do with the fact Chris Hilton has not taken a snap this year. And so they've been more kind of grinded out, longer drives with Nussmeier. They still have some receivers now with Kyron Lacey, Aaron Anderson, who has really developed over the last few weeks at wideout, and Mason Taylor at tight end. So they're very good on the offensive side of football, but it looks differently than it did a year ago. And, you're not going to repeat that. You're not going to have that type of offense again this year. And certainly when you have 3 first-round picks, and two receivers and a quarterback, yeah, we all knew it would look a little different. But, man, they are really good on offense. They can move the football. But a lot of it has to do with more of the short and immediate stuff than, say, the home run hitting element that they had last year with Daniels, the two receivers, and Daniels' ability to make a play improvisational that, okay, you can have everybody in place. He takes off running. Good luck. Because, man, he had that element in play. Garrett is more of the pro-style type of guy that he's not going to force a lot of passes downfield. Not going to do it. He's very smart, comes from a football family, covered his dad when he was a quarterback here with the Saints, and then been a long time assistant in both college and pro football. So they've been able to hum up some points the way they do it now. But Garrett's not going to be the big-time running threat, certainly, as Daniels was. But, man, he can throw it. And I think he's been underrated this year for his ability to take over this offense and get it to work to this level.
Mike Detillier talking Ole Miss at LSU this weekend under the lights in Baton Rouge. Ole Miss laying 3. They're the favorite. And we'll get to Trey Harris maybe not playing here a little bit later. But do you feel like so John Emery was showing a flash of playing really well and then goes down in week 1. Do you think this LSU running game is coming around, Mike D?
It's gotten better over the past few weeks. No question that it's gotten better, the way they run the football. And a lot of it has to do with the young freshman, Caden Durham. And he was track star out in Texas. Man, he is fast and super quick off the mark. But he is maybe the best receiver I've seen coming out of the backfield from LSU. They had that element with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Clyde was terrific coming out of the backfield. Caden is a really good receiver also coming out of the backfield. So I think a lot of it has to do with they were trying running back by committee. They tried it with Josh, tried it with Caleb Jackson, tried it with John. Then, Emery goes down with the injury again. So, hey, let's give the freshman a shot. And he's proved to be the real McCoy. Now, he does have 2 broken toes. So the thinking is that he will practice and play against Ole Miss. But, man, you just saw what he did in that first half against South Alabama, and he took over. First 2 times he touches the football, one's a touchdown, the other one he brings it all the way down to the 1-yard line. A big play element he brings. And he's one of the fastest players in college football.
Okay, so that's you got this Ole Miss defense that hasn't been challenged in the secondary, but Walter Nolan had a coming out party last weekend. Do you think LSU feels confident they can throw it, but not sure if they can run it against this team? Or how do you see it, Mike D?
Yeah, LSU's offensive line, they built to pass protect. That has never been in question, their pass protection ability. They were not real physical, I thought, early on in the season in maybe sustaining a block to open up things in the running game. But, man, it's good luck trying to get a pass rush on Garrett. They've done a really good job protecting him. And so I think they feel very confident they can protect Garrett Nussmeier. Running it remains to be seen, but both. You got 2 guys there, and Emory Jones and Will Campbell, that will be first-round picks next April, playing tackle. They can pass protect.
All right, so this is going to be a hell of a matchup between LSU's offense and Nussmeier, and going against Pete Golding, who is considered one of the better defensive coordinators in college football, and Ole Miss. Ole Miss has not faced a guy who can really spin it to date this year. All right, let's flip it. Mike D, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. He joins us on the Farm Bureau Insurance Guest Line. Game of the Week is brought to you by your next Nissan Pathfinder at Cannon Nissan in Jackson. All right, Mike D, Jackson Dart. Trey Harris, it didn't sound good yesterday. They're talking maybe a game-time decision, but listening to Jordan Watkins, their wide receiver, and listening to Lane, it didn't sound good. He's by far and away their best wide receiver. We'll see how that looks. You got Jackson Dart and that Ole Miss offense against an LSU defense that has struggled. What do you see here?
Yeah, man, I go back a few years with Trey. He was a quarterback in high school in Louisiana, goes to Louisiana Tech, makes that conversion from quarterback to wide receiver. And, man, he has taken it to another level. That's a big cog taken away if Trey's not playing in this game. LSU's defense, it is what it is. And arguably you can make the comment they've lost their two top defenders in Jacoby and Guillory at the nose tackle position and Harold Perkins at linebacker. They played better against the run this year than they did a year ago. But how could they play any worse? They were horrible last year playing the run. The big problems with LSU is in the secondary. At cornerback and safety, both positions. They've tried younger players there. At times they've looked good, other times not. If you are patient, you can sort of eat them up in the short intermediate part of the game. That's going to be the big question mark here with Ole Miss. Because you see in Lane's system, and Jackson is a bit greedy at times. He wants to hit that home run shot. But if you're patient, you can go after them in the short intermediate part of the game. And the plays are there for them to hit. And so, man, I suspect that it won't be quite the shootout that it was a year ago. That was a wild game played between both teams offensively. But there are plays to be made against this LSU football team defensively. Are they better than a year ago? Yes. But come on. Anybody that watched LSU play last year knew it couldn't get any worse. I mean, everybody chewed them up, so to speak, on offense. So I suspect there'll be a lot of points in this game, and Jackson will have some opportunities in this game if he's patient with his throws, not trying to be greedy and get that big home run shot all the time. That's something he's got to get better at. He's got to get better at throwing that short, intermediate, and not trying to always hit that big play downfield. Mike
Detillier talking Rebs and Tigers. All right, Mike, what do you think? I mean, do you expect a close game? Who do you like?
Yes. I think it'll be a close game. It'll be a high-scoring game between the two of them. I don't think either team defensively will be able to stop one another. It is part of college football that has changed dramatically. Every once in a while you see one of these, 17, 13 games, 2017 games. Those games still happen, but, man, it's almost a rare occasion. These games are going to be played where your teams are going to score in the 30s or more against one another because of the athletes out on the field and the big play ability for both teams. So I expect a close game. I expect a high-scoring game. And thirdly, if I had the liquor sales in Baton Rouge over the weekend, man, I wouldn't have to work for another 5 years.
That's for damn sure.
I mean, people have been revved up about this game for quite some time about it. And now you got it, Tiger Stadium at night. It's a different place to play even Coach Saban has talked about it's different when you play at night in Tiger Stadium, and it's an intimidating crowd. You've been there for all day, kind of waiting for the game, and the noise level that comes from Tiger Stadium, it does affect people that have never played in that environment before to play at night in these type environments. One guy to watch, Bo, on defense for LSU is, Hal Perkins goes down, and who would be the next sort of alpha dog on defense? That guy is Whit Weeks, and he's got a brother, Wes Weeks. So it's almost like the Weeks and Weeks law firm. But Whit Weeks, you might have to get them as a sponsor. But Whit Weeks is a guy that is a big-time playmaker for them. He does not get the publicity that Perkins did because he's not the pass rusher. But just watch him on every play. He's smart. He's instinctive. He's around the football. Every once in a while, they shoot him into the gap as a pass rusher. He's very good in the coverage part of the game. He is starting to emerge as that alpha for them on the defensive side of the football. And Blake Baker, during the offseason and talking to him, he was like, I want that guy. I want that guy that barks the loudest out on the field due to his play. That guy has become Whit Weeks for LSU.
Okay.
He's really played well this year for him on the defensive side of the football. Him and Greg Penn, the third, at the linebacking position, have really been the two steady guys for them on that side of the football.
Okay. Whit Weeks. Weeks and Weeks. I like that. I love that. Mike D on the Out of Bounds show. Can he step up with, or he already has stepped up, but how will they look without Harold Perkins? Although things have been kind of off with Harold, I think, the last year or so. I think Mike would agree. They couldn't really figure out what they.
He's an athlete without a position. Great athlete without a position.
Yeah.
He was so effective coming off the edge. And ever since that Texas A&M game as a freshman, when A&M said, okay, we're going to show you what we're going to do to you, they ran the football right at him.
Mm-hmm.
And LSU still trying to bring down Achane. I mean, he's still trying to tackle him. He was probably 75% in that game, and he was unbelievable. But they've tried a bunch of different stuff with Harold. It's never really worked. And it was almost becoming frustrating, I think, to him before the knee injury of kind of where he'd fit. Sometimes you'd see him in coverage. Sometimes you'd see him close to the line. He was never the same edge rusher. They didn't use him in that category again, which to me is still surprising because that's what he did the best, getting off the line of scrimmage and getting into the backfield as a pass rusher. And I hadn't seen anything like that since Arden Key, because Arden was like that early in his career at LSU. Arden was a much bigger player, too.
Mike Detillier on the Out of Bounds show. Mike, I need to switch gears real quick. All right, Saints are 2-3, and they host Tampa Bay, who I think had to get there yesterday because of the hurricane.
Yes.
Can they get it back rolling, Mike D? Can they get this thing? We talked about it was a brutal stretch of games, but they had Philly beat. Good grief with Atlanta. I mean, Kansas City's KC. Is it doom and gloom, or they can get this thing turned back around?
They are a middle-of-the-road football team, okay? I don't want to say it was a mirage the first two games because I did actually see it. But they've kind of come back down to earth with all this. And they're a team that'll finish with, maybe like saying I thought they'd be an 8-win, 9-loss team. Last year they were 9-8. The year before they were 7-10. So you stuck in football purgatory right now. You just stuck there. And Yeah, injuries happen, but they happen to every team in the NFL. You can say, well, the injuries, okay, everybody's got them. KC had them, but last night they found out it was a master class in coaching by Andy Reid. Despite missing all kind of pieces on offense, that offense hummed all across the board. They weren't great in the red zone, Kansas City, but that's the only thing they weren't great in. Their defense really was good. And got Chris Jones up front and, Nick Bolton, too. We saw, when he was at Missouri, what type of player he was. Their secondary is still really, really good, despite the fact that, they couldn't pay Snead and had to send him to the Titans. But, man, Mahomes, you can say we practice certain things. He does things improvisational like no one I've seen in the 40 years covering this league. He's Pete Maravich with a football. He can do things with a football to throw it and to escape and to get out of trouble, just like Pete was with a basketball. He is with a football. All kind of angles, that ball's coming out. And when they need something, he gives it to them. Last night, surprisingly, they ran the ball well. Mm-hmm. They had not run the football well all season long. Kareem Hunt, I don't know if he drank from the fountain of youth for that game, but he certainly looked pretty good. And Travis Kelce, and I heard an old coach tell me this. Travis Kelce is a guy that at 35 years old, he's not quite the athlete, certainly was when he was in his 20s. But on 3rd and 6, he gets you 8, and he drives you nuts because he keeps you on the field. And he'll make a play, get a first down. Make a play, get a first down. He's kept moving the chains. But, man, when you have the best coach in pro football in Andy Reid, the best player in pro football in Patrick Mahomes, and arguably one of the top 3 or 4 defensive linemen, defensive players in Chris Jones, you're not losing a lot of games.
I agree. And Spagnuolo's one of the top 3 defensive coordinators in the game, as you know, Mike D.
Think about their staff. Other than Eric Bieniemy leaving, they've kept the same staff in place for quite a few years, despite winning. Okay, Spagnuolo's still the defensive coordinator. Joe Cullen is the defensive line coach. Brandon Daly's been there with them for years as the linebackers coach. Terry Braden, their assistant defensive line coach. And they've all been there forever.
No doubt. Mike D., we appreciate it, my man. Have a great week. Enjoy the game in Baton Rouge.
We'll do it. Thank you.
Hey, the Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Sound and Communications. SoundCommAV.com for your next sound system at your football stadium or football field, baseball stadium, arena, basketball facility, powered by SoundCommAV.com.